Hi, we're Dan and Alice,
Hi.
the writer and editor, respectively, of the Cheeseman Returns blog, trying something new with the audio format.
Whoop whoop.
So today we're going to be talking about the 1989 film Batman, directed by Tim Burton. I was thinking a lot earlier about the milieu in which this film arrived, and I was thinking about how when we were children,
A long time ago.
yeah, we there weren't tons and tons of films being made specifically targeted at children.
No.
I've done no research on this. This is purely my own insular.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah. So, there was no Blue Sky, there was no Illumination, DreamWorks Animation, Pixar.
Kids had to fit in with what everyone was watching already in the family.
Exactly, yeah. Or, there were a handful. There was Land Before Time, American Tail, and every, 2 or 3 years there was a new Disney, wasn't there? Mm-hmm. In the golden age of Disney.
Yeah.
And like you say, there was a middle ground. So you had films like Ghostbusters.
Amazing. Love it.
Groundhog Day. Legend. Labyrinth. Roger Rabbit. Highlander. And then you had films, the Tim Burton films. So you'd got Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Edward Scissorhands, and then later, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Watch it every year.
Yeah.
But is it a Christmas film or a Halloween film? You decide.
Both. I think it's good enough to watch twice a year. Yeah. I personally, I love Tim Burton then. I love him now.
Yeah, so do I. He's less Burton-y now, though.
Yeah, than he was.
Not classic Burton.
Yeah.
I prefer classic Burton.
Well, I think Edward Scissorhands is the most Burton-y of the Burton films, isn't
definitely.
it? It feels the most personal out of all of his films. It feels like, it's about, his films of these redeeming broken characters. Ichabod Crane, Willy Wonka, Edward Scissorhands and Bruce Wayne, sort of defined by moments in their youth. He's obviously he's got a very distinctive style as well. And I think he said in interviews that he sort of works out his own personal demons, his own...
Yeah, I think a lot of directors do that.
I think they do. They put their stamp on things. I was thinking earlier, obviously we're talking Batman today, and how every Batman director, you could watch the film and you can watch it as a Batman fan, but you can also watch it kind of as a fan of whichever director it is. So if you went and, if you sit down, instantly when you get the Joel Schumacher films on, you're watching something really gaudy and...
bombastic.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. When you sit down and watch the Nolan ones, they have all the hallmarks of a Nolan film,
That we love.
Yeah, oh, yeah. And the same with the Tim Burton ones, more so in Batman Returns, because he sort of took the reins a little bit more from Warner Brothers and from the producers in Batman Returns. I first saw this, I would have first seen this in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm. Same for me, I think.
Yeah?
Can barely remember, to be honest.
Obviously, I loved it. There weren't many superhero films coming out at that time. It wasn't like now when they're coming out all the time. It was all that there was really was the Superman films, weren't there?
Yeah. No Marvel machine.
No. At that time, you'd got so if we say 1992, that year we'd got Batman Returns coming out. Batman the Animated Series debuting. We had it for here. It was on Saturday mornings. On a kids show presented by two puppet wolves.
I don't remember them.
No. I would have thought I dreamt them unless I'd looked it up. So, and in the afternoons, they showed the 1960s TV show, which I also loved. So it was a really brilliant time to be a Batman fan. To me, at that time, it was all one Batman, I didn't really see a distinction between the 1960s Adam West Batman and Michael Keaton.
That's interesting.
I think my favourite bit of the 60s show when I was younger was my least favourite bit now, which is the bit where they have the break to go biff, pow, bam. Which they almost do in the Burton film. It treads a wonderful line. It's halfway between how daft the 60s show was and how serious the sort of modern ones are, which is one of the reasons why it's one of the better Batman films. So it's really Rocky Road bringing Batman to the screen. You'd got people like Michael Uslan and Warner Brothers, obviously, spending a long time trying to get a Batman movie made. So, there's a big old gap between 1966 and 1989 from one Batman film to the next Batman film, especially nowadays when, there's never much of a gap. So there's an excellent podcast that you can hear on that gap. It's called The Best Movies Never Made. And they talk about all the different films that didn't happen in that time. Quite a lot of drafts of scripts in that time, including Batman Meets Godzilla. Which
you've done an artwork for.
Yeah, I did. I did a poster for, which you can see on Dan Cheeseman Art on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Plug.
Yeah. Then we finally get to this version of Batman. It was 1983. They'd got a script and it underwent rewrites from 9 writers. Then there was a new treatment in 1985, then 3 more in 1986. And then the last of these was Sam Hamm's script.
Sam Hamm.
Brilliant name, isn't it? And that was rewritten well into production by 2 more writers. Yeah, you can kind of see why Tim Burton asked for creative control when he got to the second film.
Yeah, it was a bit messy.
He described the shoot as the worst period of his life, which is pretty melodramatic, but it's a pretty melodramatic film.
That's what Steven Spielberg said about Jaws, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I've read some of the earlier drafts. Bruce Wayne is a bit more charming. The Joker is vain and a bit more cheerful and a bit more sincere in the drafts. And I think even if you read just the normal script for 1989 Batman, there's a real difference between reading it on the page and hearing Nicholson say it, because he makes the most innocuous lines sound sinister and sarcastic.
His delivery, yeah.
Yeah, he's more cogent to the evil things that he's doing, whereas when you just read it on the page, you think, oh, this guy's just nuts. You know?
Yeah, it's more planned.
Yeah, exactly. He seems scheming, yeah. Also, Bruce Wayne rides a horse quite a lot in the...
Why?
He takes Vicky Vale on a ride. I feel like they ride on the beach, maybe, or maybe that's just a dream. I don't know. They go for a horse ride on the beach, and then in like the big finale, he rides a horse. Kind of, I'm sort of imagining like when John Wick rides the horse in John Wick 3, down a Gotham street.
So, does anyone really know how to pronounce the surname Basinger?
Well, you said it right the first time.
Basinger.
I know because it's in The Simpsons.
Oh, okay.
Homer Simpson comes through the skylight and lands on Kim Basinger's bed.
Yeah.
And he goes, Kim Basinger or something like that. And she goes, it's Basinger. That's the only way I know.
We have a definitive answer now. Okay, great. One of the first things that I noticed about Gotham gives you the flavour and the tone of Gotham is that a prostitute accosts a child within the first probably minute of the film. So that's telling us what this city is all about.
That opening with the random mugging it makes old fans like me, obviously I wasn't an old fan when I saw it the first time, but I was aware of Batman's origin because I had the annuals, think that you're seeing the Waynes, because it's a father, a mother and a son.
Yeah. Nice echo.
But to new fans, they're being introduced to Batman for the first time, and he's a mystery to them. And I mean, not so much nowadays where the origin has been done a million times. But in 1989, you don't find out his origin till quite late in the film. So it sort of speeds things up by making, Bruce Wayne is already Batman at the start of the film, and Jack Napier is already a bad guy at the start of the film. It's controversial, but it just gets you there, doesn't it? It gets you straight into the action.
We don't
right
always
from the start,
need to hear the backstory.
But yeah, like you say, Gotham is a horrible place, and there are, there is a proposition very, very early on in a really horrible looking, dirgy, gothic Gotham. It's claustrophobic. It looks dark by day. It's an ugly city.
I wouldn't go that far. No? I'm saying I wrote that it was giving Manhattan after a really bad year.
Yeah.
There's still a certain amount of glamour. And speaking of glamour, I want to come on to the outfits, the wardrobe. So there's a real 30s, there's a lot of 30s vibe coming through.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely in the suits that a lot of people are wearing, the hats. I feel like Jerry Hall really looks like Veronica Lake.
Oh, she looks great, yeah.
Yeah, even after her makeover,
yeah.
I think she's still extremely glamorous. And yeah, the city itself, really, there's a lot of metropolis in there, classic 30s New York. A bit like, well, I've written here a cold version of hell, but a kind of cold, glamorous version.
I know what you mean. There's a stark beauty to Gothic architecture. But it's like all like pipes and... It feels sick, it feels like there are, you've got criminals hiding in polluting factories, and you've got everything's being used against the public. You've got art is made ugly and consumerism is used against the public, when they have the cosmetic scare.
Yeah.
A festival, they have a big festival at the end, but really it's just a means to bring about genocide. When I think of Gotham City, I mostly think of this version, or maybe the animated series version, because it's such a gothic Gotham. It was 18 sound stages at Pinewood, so it was huge. I think you can kind of tell that it is you can tell that it's not a real.
You can, yeah.
That it's not shot on location. It's, obviously, then that's mostly the case for Batman films. I'd say only Nolan was the only director who went on location.
He likes everything to feel really real.
Real, yeah. Whereas I suppose that's not really the idea here. It's a heightened reality, isn't it? And this is thanks to a visionary production designer called Anton Furst, who won the Oscar for the film, and he gave us the logo, which was used as the movie poster. And I suppose, it's still kind of I was gonna say the DVD cover, as if people are buying DVDs.
Some people do.
Yeah, well, we do. The car and the city. So that's a huge contribution. Outside of Tim Burton, Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson, you could say he was the MVP of the film,
Well, we can't talk about the fashion in the film without mentioning... the Joker's purple suit. Amazing.
They're gorgeous. Suit. Yeah, he's got several, hasn't he?
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
I hadn't really realised. But, they're all great. And also, why is Vicky wearing a wedding dress to Bruce Wayne's gala? An 80s prom...
It is, isn't it?
Wedding dress.
I think she
read the room, Vicky.
I think she had a separate costume designer. I've got a feeling like there was a separate one for her than there was for everyone else.
She's 50% hair.
She is, yeah. Yeah.
The hair should have been given its own budget and salary for this film.
Do you think when she won an Oscar for LA Confidential, do you think her hair got a separate one?
Yes.
So something I was thinking about there when you were talking about the 80s, and this is the Prince soundtrack, which made millions, but Tim Burton didn't like that it dated the film. He wanted Gotham to feel like timeless, like of an ambiguous time period, which it does in most versions of of Gotham. You know, like you say, 1930s suits. And they're these lovely, like, double-breasted suits, aren't they? And
Yeah,
nearly
they're amazing.
everyone is wearing a fedora.
Yes.
Or a trench coat. Knox wears, like, a trench coat,
or
doesn't he?
matching henchman jackets.
Yeah. I don't know what era those are supposed, because they're like leather jackets, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're 1950s jackets.
Or bowling.
They're greaser
bowling
jackets or something,
yeah.
It's stylish, isn't it? But it's a mishmash, for sure, yeah.
Keaton's eyebrows.
They're something else, aren't they?
They really are. I mean, there's probably a whole other episode about about Batman eyebrows, but they look like perfect triangles, I've written.
Do, yeah.
But they're very expressive.
I'm doing them now, which doesn't really help when you're
Doesn't
doing
help
something audio.
on
but
audio.
Both him and Nicholson have got amazing eyebrows, haven't they?
They have, definitely. And the last thing I'd made notes on were the Joker's incredible one-liners, which pop up throughout the film. Two main examples that stood out to me were Jesus Marimba and never rub another man's rhubarb. Two particular favourites.
Yeah. I got a mind to make some muggy. He's meant to say mayhem in the script. It says mayhem, but he seems to say muggy.
Muggy.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's just so random, isn't all that? I'm going to clean my claws. All that, like...
But that's so part of the Joker.
It
I
is.
think.
It's skittering all over the place. It's
Yeah.
like a pinball machine. You know, it's the another rooster in the hen house. Take thy beak from out my heart. You know. So there's that death quite early on in the film. Ratelli, one of the rival gangsters, he shocks him, doesn't he? Yeah. And it looks terrible, doesn't it? The effects on that.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a scary scene, but it's also sort of a funny scene. And that's sort of the perfect Joker sort of scene, is when you're not quite sure how you're supposed to feel about it. Because I think every version of Joker has been kind of funny, but in a really weird,
edgy,
quite sick way sometimes. And that scene I love because it shows that he's actually genuinely mad. Like I say, he sounds kind of sarcastic, but the room totally clears and he has a conversation with a corpse, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
And the novel makes it clear, there's a novelisation that makes it clear he's actually waiting and listening to hear what the dead man says in response to what he's saying.
I didn't really get that from the film, though. I
Did
don't
you
know
think
if it
he was still
played
being
that way.
sarcastic, or
Yeah.
And he's on a sort of weird crusade, but it's blurry. So he's like, he goes after the beauty industry, and Knox at the end says about the greed of Gotham. He goes after there's something almost like he's punishing his fellow Gothamites. Yeah, but I don't think he's got as clear a view, for example, as say Ledger's Joker, who seems to be genuinely out to teach everyone a horrible lesson or something.
Do you think he goes, partly why he goes after the beauty industry is because he feels hideous?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. He's meant to be vain. Like I say, in the early scripts that's very clear. In the film, you only get that once when
It's diluted.
He sort of looks in the mirror and his girlfriend says, you look fine, didn't she?
Yeah.
And he goes, I didn't ask. And you get the feeling, that he maybe put a lot of stress on his own external appearance. And that's,
And that of his girlfriends as well.
Yeah, clearly, yeah. It's all about surface, no inner beauty. But he's genuinely interested in the aesthetic. He's not lying when he's talking about his plan for, making the world his canvas, when he talks to Vicky Vale about, you will document my works. It seems like that's actually what he wants to do,
Yeah.
When Bruce Wayne reads his police file, weirdly that's in there. And
Loves art.
yeah, it's like a school report, It says it lists his skills, chemistry, obviously, because of his horrible toxin.
Yeah, does falling into a vat of chemicals
It makes
qualify
you an
you
expert. Yeah.
as an expert in chemistry?
Or he was already an expert. As he was falling towards the vat, he was going, "Oh, I shouldn't fall into this vat." But he's Nicholson's great. Tim Burton particularly loved his energy.
Crazy.
Yeah, he would do 6 takes and they'd all be different flavours of psychosis. Burton objected to a lot of the script changes. And there was a point where he had to admit to Nicholson on the set he had no idea why the Joker was motivated to go up the cathedral, at the end where they climb the cathedral. And so Nicholson was angry enough that, on his behalf, I think, that he confronted the producers in full Joker makeup.
Yeah, that must have been scary.
Yeah, definitely. But he reportedly took a cut of the merch and a cut of the next 2 films in the series, even though he wasn't in them.
That's a good deal.
His contract is believed to have earned him between $50 and $75 million.
Wow.
Which he could have dumped on the crowd in that end scene, when he's giving all the dollars away.
He probably did.
Yeah.
So we should talk about the rest of the cast.
Yeah. Basinger replaced Sean Young after she was injured in a horse riding accident.
Ouch. Sean, I love Sean from Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Excellent film.
Yeah. And she's sort of, I feel like she's meant to be like us in the film in that she's seeing it all from the outside, her and Knox.
Sexual harassment Knox.
Oh, what? Hello, legs.
Yeah. He's persistent. Something about a long lens.
Yeah, if you want to photograph me in the nude, you're going to need a long net. Yeah, long. Literally.
Sexual harassment is not cool, kids.
Even in 1989.
Yeah.
That's like one of the first things he says to her.
Yeah, he's literally just met her.
I think he's fun, but he sort of starts to disappear from the story later on, doesn't he? Because it's giving way to. I think it's more her story.
And the relationship between her and Batman.
Yeah, for sure. In the final scene, that cathedral scene we were just talking about, she had to request involvement. She wasn't going to be in it. It was just going to be Batman and the Joker, which is weird because, like I say, she's us.
Yeah.
She's the stakes kind of, because if it's just Batman and the Joker, it's he's not saving anyone. She's like a sort of gothic maiden in that.
Yeah, exactly. Being carried up the tower.
Yeah, and she's even in a white dress, another white dress. And then Keaton. Warner Brothers received 50,000 letters of complaint when he was cast.
Wow.
Back then, they'd have actually had to have sat down and write a letter to show that they were upset.
No Twitter.
Yeah, upset about a bit
What
of
a
casting.
world.
Obviously, in the comics, Batman's a pretty big guy. Keaton's quite short. And mostly known for comedy at that time. Obviously, most recently, Beetlejuice. Another excellent Burton film. But Tim Burton said he specifically didn't want someone that looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Because
I don't blame him.
yeah, well, yeah, that was kind of in 1989 that was the model of the action hero, wasn't it? And he felt like Keaton looks like the kind of person that would dress up like a bat to strike fear into people. I think that's true. I think you look at him, especially that scowly face that you described earlier.
Yeah.
I like that he's a slightly more awkward Bruce Wayne.
It works well.
And I like that he's quite unhinged, because that feels your friend Wayne is really screwed up. It feels genuine to Batman. There are some really wonderful, well-adjusted versions of Batman. But I also really love when he's clearly acting out some kind of catharsis in, and this version of Batman definitely is. It's it's almost vengeance rather than justice in the case of this particular.
Well, it's a fine line that Batman always treads, isn't it?
Yeah. That was really closely examined in the recent one, wasn't
Yeah.
it? The Robert Pattinson one. This version of Batman, I feel like, hasn't gone on the journey that Robert Pattinson goes on in that film.
No.
But it's fun. It's you want to get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
Yeah. And I feel like at the beginning, with the muggers, he punishes them rather than stopping them. But I suppose, as with all versions of the character, he kind of mellows. So I think the following films, including the Schumacher ones, are supposed to be all kind of one story.
Right.
They're a little nod across the films, like Nicole Kidman mentions Catwoman, for example. I think you're meant to feel that he mellows into George Clooney.
Who doesn't want to mellow into George Clooney?
Because he does seem quite well adjusted by that point.
Yeah, but he's one of the most boring Batmen ever.
I've got a fondness for all of them. So moving on to Michael Gough, who is the Alfred for all four of those films.
Love him.
He's Alfred for Keaton, Kilmer, and Clooney.
Yeah.
Is he the cuddliest Alfred?
Probably, yeah. He's the most removed from Alfred's military background, I think. Does he even have a military background
No, I don't think so.
These films?
I think that's more of a recent thing.
Yeah.
I think they've put that in a lot more lately, especially because since there's a really excellent comic series called Batman Earth 1, where they made him like an ex-military, like a bodyguard style. That's definitely what they were thinking about when they did the Jeremy Irons version, or probably the Andy Serkis version as well.
I'm pretty sure that he said, Andy Serkis's version of Alfred said at some point that he was like the protection for Thomas and Martha and Bruce.
Yeah, you're right. I think he does say that, and he's got a cane, like he's like limping around, like like the fella in Gotham.
Yeah. The
Gotham TV show does the same. Or does he have a? He doesn't have a cane. But
no canes.
He's definitely ex-military though. The one in the Gotham TV show. Yeah. But Sir Michael Caine.
Canes. Talking of canes.
Yeah.
The best of them, Sir Michael.
He might. Oh yeah, he's definitely up there, isn't he? He definitely had the military background as well, because he was
in Burma.
Yeah, that's right. A ruby the size of a tangerine. He's pretty cuddly. I'd say Alan Napier from the 60s show, and also Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. from the animated series. There's a really wonderful bit at the end of Mask of the Phantasm where he's got a very tender Alfred voice.
Oh.
Billy D. Williams, he's Harvey Dent.
It's too much to squeeze into the film to have him be Two-Face.
I think they thought about it for Batman Returns, and then they made Christopher Walken's character up so that they could have a non-Rogues Gallery villain.
Sure.
But who was who he still does all the villainous things, and he still sets stuff in motion in that film, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And it was a shame because, of course, we didn't get... because that was one of the reasons Billy D. Williams signed on. Lovable Billy D. Williams from Star Wars, was because he wanted to be Two-Face in a sequel. And the closest to that happening has been, there was a Batman 89 comic where they made him Two-Face.
Yeah.
Quite recently. And, of course, the Lego Batman movie where he voices Two-Face.
Cute.
And also Zoe Kravitz voices Catwoman in that one before she then became Catwoman.
Oh, that's cute.
And not forgetting, you've got probably the best car, probably the best Batmobile, would you say?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I like how gothic it is.
Yeah, it's 20 feet long. It's not practical for parking.
Has Batman exaggerated the length of his
Of his
Batmobile?
Batmobile.
It's 20 foot long, ladies.
She says, she comes out of the museum, doesn't she? He goes, he tells her to get in the car and she goes, which one? And there's an excellent documentary on YouTube. It's just called The Batmobile Documentary from Warner Brothers. And it's just wonderful because it takes you through the history of the cars. And I would say the best theme.
Yes.
I don't think we can not mention Danny Elfman.
He's a massive presence. His score is a massive presence.
Yeah, when we watched it the other night, when the film was beginning, I was bouncing up and down on the sofa, wasn't I? Because
Yes.
it starts with that really quiet, and then it builds to the really triumphant,
Crescendo.
yeah, it's just, it's wonderful. And then that would obviously go on to be, a defining theme in the animated series and in Batman Returns. I think he builds on it and makes it even better. There have been some brilliant Batman scores. I really love, obviously Hans Zimmer's for the Dark Knight series.
Yes.
But I think Elfman's is still probably the best. Anyway, that's about all we've got for now on Batman 89. I think I probably could go on all night about about it, but that's probably enough.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully we'll do one of these again.
Yeah.
Look at another film.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.